Guys, I just pointed out in real time how we just got underneath the 3-bar combo from the high, right? And how often, though not always, often this will end up being the beginning of a roll down. So you have to take the risk from 39.96 all the way back up to 39.71.75, right? 39.66.50. The point of control was, wait, where did it come in? Apologies. 1, 2, 3. Point of control came underneath on the down triangle. Stop goes 71.75. Entry would have been 66.25. And we're going to record this and see where it goes. The problem was it was right in VWAP, and the low rotational environment makes it challenging. But yeah, it works. It works great. When it works, it gives big rolls off the top, right? And the ideal extension. So this is how I'm trying to teach some people to think, right? Even if it's not possible because of the lack of volatility, but what are the potential targets down? 24-hour VWAP, prior day's high, plus the anomaly behind it, the old all-time high, the anomaly with prior day's value area high. And then I would say from this standpoint, my ultimate target would be to get down to 38.29, which would also get you underneath prior day's low and generate a long liquidation, right? So I want you to see, what I want you to see is, hey, do I get this pattern on top, right? The patterns repeat in pretty specific ways, right? So can I get the pattern on top? Additionally, we've broken the last stopped out buyer on a 1.5 range. That's this right here. Now we're closed underneath. And now I would expect, and we've closed it definitively, right? A bar underneath. So now I would expect pushes back in here. So the next thing I would do is I'd start maintaining a 50-60 retrace of this move, which you'll notice is going to put you right into this 50-60, and your stop goes behind it. So now you can adjust your stop already, because if you close above 39.68, assume 2 points. So you move your stop down to 39.70, because that would be a point, and it would close behind, and that would also get it to close behind the 786, which you don't want, right? Just playing the odds, okay? So, and now you can start to look and go, well, hey, what are my targets potentially below? And now we can watch as those targets hit. But that shows you in real time. And then also, this wasn't really a great 3-bar combo, but this was. And this bar got you below your 3-bar combo. So I'm definitely interested in pushes back up. And I'm watching patiently. Does that make sense to everyone in the room? Did I explain that well? And does that help? Okay. And now you got to do, so Victor, if we had wider rotations there, I would assume if we had more volatility, I would assume we could make it to 39.60 to 39.56. That would be my first target, right? Because of lack of volatility, I'm unsure. It's also going to push us into the 3rd and 4th standard deviation down here. And we all know that we're likely to get a bounce out of that. So that would still be 39.60, right? In this area. So that's a fine first target. And then what you'd want to see if you were going to carry that position, you're going to go, so let's say I had a thesis that this is the high, this is your head and shoulders over here, and you're going to push down. This becomes your first scale location towards this 39.60, because it makes sense that we come back and test it, right? That's the only reason why it is. There's nothing special about that area, okay? Okay, so I want to show you a trade I just did. I apologize. This is still in motion on NQ, but I'm trying to reinforce the same idea is all I'm trying to do, right? So see how I got my impulse down, right? So I got below this 3-bar combo. Well, it was just a pivot here, right? See how that was the pivot, but it was NQ's way extended up into its single prints, right? So see how it made that impulse move down? Okay, so we didn't break the last stopped out buyer, which is right over here to the left, right? So, but I did think if we came back up into that 50-60, we could reject out of this structure. So this is structure plus 50-60. And then we pushed right up here against the 786. So I was looking, I was like, okay, I shorted some here, and I added some right here with the stop right up here at the high, right? It wasn't that big a jump. It was less than 10 points, right? And then I get this fat rollover to the downside, right? So I'm already out on this trade. I don't give a shit if it rolls over or not from here, right? I'm not underneath my last stopped out buyer, which is over here to the left. I still need to work that through. I know I'm way extended, and psychologically I know I'm in the right area because I'm in these single prints, right? Now, logically, what I'd like to say is come over here, bump over to the 33, 32. It's too big a stretch maybe to make it to 451. Bump over, trap back in, and then roll back down to VWAP. That's fantasy, right? So one of the areas I have to be careful of is I don't make that my story, right? I can go, oh, if it gets over 32, I'd look for the trap back in to retrace back to the 24-hour VWAP, right? But I don't have to make that my story. But what I can do is use what I already have the tools in place to make this structurally sound. Like, for example, now, in order to go, I would use this 3-bar combo right here, right? And see how I need a negative bar with the pointing control underneath? See how they're holding it? Now I know if I get the negative bar underneath, right? If I get the negative bar underneath, I want to push back up. Also, once I'm below my stopped out buyer, now I can use this speed bar up, triangle down as a short entry for continuation lower. Okay, so the pace is the problem, Randy, you're right. So I'm just trying to set myself in motion for not, what I find is I used to get anxious because I missed this. In this case, I got it. But if I miss this, but really the real opportunity comes over here underneath the left shoulder. And then for the 8 range, we're not even close to being in business for a downside move until we get underneath this structure. And that structure brings you underneath 1251. So what that should do is, it depends on how you define that. If you give this as there's no rush for me to be short and you don't agonize about picking off the top, you can go, oh, the bigger portion of the roll down is going to come over here underneath off the higher time frames. Why? Because this is what institutions are trading too, right? The smaller time frame, higher time frame, right? This is almost 40% larger to make each bar, right? And so that's why I want to be setting myself in a mindset. I know I'm trending up. I also know I'm in a general area where if I look back 24 hours from now, we are probably going to be able to safely say, hey, we probably reject out of this area, okay? But this area covers a lot of territory. It's almost 100 points, right? So now I've got to get very selective, and what will it look like when it breaks? And I've got to know that in my head so I can transfer the trade over, if that makes any sense. Hopefully it does. We're right on the 24-hour VWAP on ES. And the lack of pace is challenging, right? So I'm just taking scalps as I go. I know that there's no great volatility for me to sit in the trade and wait. Like I'm not going to predict the breakdown on the NQ, right? I just know I'm in the right area in general. If I was an institutional trader, I'd be selling all of this. For me, if I was running my hedge fund and I was long positions, I'd be selling into all of this, 100%. Right? I know there'll be another pullback somewhere down the road. I know single prints in this often exhaust. I know we're still 24 hours away from the Fed chair. Not that he's going to say anything negative, but the likelihood of having a full trend day up in front of the Fed chair is low. I'm at location. This is where I would use to dump my position. But I'm not in that business anymore, so I'm not worried about it. Enki has a waterfall of death pattern on a 5 range. See how it starts going into the lower highs? 1, 2, 3, 4. So failure to get above the high leads to a downside break on the bottom. So the spectacular thing, so they don't always work. It's about 50-50 that it works and falls from that wedge. But when it falls, it's dramatic. Like, it can be big, 50, 100 points on the breaks. So, and all you got to do is make sure it doesn't break that any of those fractals. So like right now, if you make sure it doesn't get above 79, right, you're in business. And when it breaks, they break big. But you would usually get that in a weaker market, needless to say. I'll talk about Snoozeville. Three minutes till the top of the hour. Expect bottom of the hour. Expect algos. Normally this would be a 10:30 close. You still get the weird algos, even though London close isn't there. Massive wave up on NQ without breaking the high. Interesting. If that gets underneath that wave, which would be underneath 13,262, I'd expect it to reel in pretty good. Now, that would require that we actually start moving. About to get underneath that wave. See this? See how big that wave is? Up. It's not the biggest wave, but it's the biggest wave. So, like, imagine if this was the low. I would have said, oh, that's the biggest push into the low and failure to break the high, right? So, if you get underneath those guys, everyone who just pushed there is totally trapped. So, we'll see. There's obviously a difference between the conceptual idea that they're trapped and the actual idea that, hey, they're trapped. And 30. They're trying. Again, if you can't get underneath that wave, then continuation higher. again, the trading conditions have just started to suck really bad. Like we're just folding over the same bars. I mean, I know we're on hold, but this is a ridiculous version of on hold. And we've been a ton of volume in general up here in NQ. If you can get under it, that becomes resistance. Someone's going to give. Like one of those two are going to give. ES is going to catch up to NQ, or NQ is going to catch up to ES. I'm going to go with NQ is going to catch up to ES. Right? ES is going to come back to retest that. It's going to test that 60 to 56 or 46 to 42, and it's going to cause a 50 retrace on NQ. That's my guess. Maybe a wrong guess, but it is a guess in the land of nothing going on. And I know what I'm looking for once I break and get vertical is a speed bar up, triangle down. But notice not at VWAP. See, we're so slow that even on the 1.5 range, we're just generating signals. We got to get out of this. Hey, we're just going to lay brick over brick vertically. It's a big clue not to do anything. And it's an okay clue too. The target for NQ has to be at least initially 13,242, and that's the VWAP from the RTH. 24-hour VWAP is at 13,180, full 80 points away. Excuse me, the RTH VWAP is it's not corrected. RTH VWAP is at 13,232, which is 40 points away, or 35. NQ rolling towards that VWAP now, slowly. Remember, then we're going to have 11 o'clock, and 11 to 11:30 is going to be London close. So with NQ closing underneath, finally trapping underneath that, one of the trades I can look for now, since NQ has the opportunity to have more verticalness, is speed bar up, then triangle down, right? With the target being the VWAP over here, right? Both either at the 8 range or the 5 range, just like this, only I want it after it's broken, right? So speed bar, triangle down usually leads to an extension lower. So I want to get that set up over here on the 5 range, and the stop is no more than those two bars combined. So in this case, it would be 10 points max, right? And often it works just on the triangle bar, so you can actually make that as small as a 5-point stop. Okay, so blue speed bar, white triangle, red triangle down. That's my key to have a good RR trade back to VWAP. Or I wait for it to set up on the longer side, which will be easier, but it needs to come in some first. So I've got a blue speed bar up on the 5 range. Here, ES isn't doing jack, so I'm going to show you here. So now what I want is within 2 bars The ideal model is within 2 bars, I get a triangle down, or even this star down would work quite often. Got it. And again, the PA is just non-generous here, right? So you got to keep that in mind. So see how I'm getting that blue speed bar up now? Now the next bar, if this bar prints, I want to wait because I want it triangle down. And again, if I'm going to look for ideal location here, back into the 50-60. Remember, back into the 50-60 puts it into this 3 bar. So you just got that, right? Effectively, you just got that set up. So you don't want it above 68.25 at this point. Or actually, let's put 72.75. But either way, you got it exactly where you wanted it, right? Now you need the speed bar down. You didn't get it. That still should make an attempt lower. You're below the stopped out buyer. Your backside testing the stopped out buyer on NQ. It should push lower. Stopped out seller. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Stopped out seller. There's your triangle down. So now you don't want it back above that triangle down, right? So you put your stop like at 63, 65, wherever you want. You're looking for the reversal signal underneath the stopped out buyer. That's it, right? That's as pretty as it gets for the most part, right? And we're not getting that much rotation. So it shouldn't get back above that bar. You want it to fall off of that bar pretty hard, actually. It's all right to get a reversal bar there as long as it's not a speed bar. There's just no pressure to the downside. Normally, that's a fantastic break. Like you're like, oh, thank you. I'd close it now. Unless you're just going to play against structure on top. That should have given, and they just keep trying to rescue it, making it very tough. Rescue is the wrong word. Push it is the right word. Finally, NQ breaking. Took forever because there's no downside pressure on it. Everyone want to see the trade again? So there's no pressure on it, so it's taking forever. So normally this would break it right here. Backside test, break. It did 2 backside tests because there's so much strength. And even then, we still haven't broken it. We want to get all the way down here to VWAP on it. But see how now it's accelerating to the downside? Okay, and that's what I was looking for. So the whole point is the model, not the whether the trade works successfully because we don't have the speed, right? The model is what matters. So that's what I have to say about that. Is that helpful, guys? I'm going to wrap that up right there. And ES eventually did roll down. It just took a lifetime with the PA. That's what it looks like on a slow roll. Okay, so does anyone have any questions? And that ES trade started all the way up here, right? With the break of this 3-bar combo, right? See how it closed underneath here. So if you look at this journey, right, started here, backside tested. Like I said, you're going to have a stop somewhere up in this. I think I said 5 points or 6 points. I don't remember which one I said, but either way, you need to stop back over here. It did the 50-60 retrace. And the other way to have done that is you could have used the 50-60 against the high. Again, really slow. So pattern identification is one thing, but getting the true recognition of what you're looking for is a little bit harder. I know it wears on me as I sit there, although that's one of my big goals to improve. The next trade would have been, so had this been faster, you want speed bar up followed by speed bar down. So this took place in a funky way because there's no rotation, but had it been this speed bar up, see how it made no progress off that speed bar and then it gets speed bar down? That releases it down. Does that make sense, Randy? You get triangle down, excuse me. You get triangle up, speed bar, triangle up, followed by triangle down. Did that answer the question? So your next trade, ideally, like if you were trading NQ, would be speed bar, triangle down, if you could get it. You don't have it yet, but you'd want speed bar somewhere up in here, followed by triangle down. And your 3-bar combo ultimately worked off the top, although I couldn't have taken it. It's not, I want the break of those areas to get the higher odds trade. Okay, so Randy, slow down. You're not looking for anything because it's so damn slow, right? This is a support level, right? You'd expect responsive buyers out of here. This was the trap. The problem is the range is moving so slow that I'm not looking for anything because I can't tell, right? Like at the end of the day, when I mark this up, so it's good that you know you're frustrated, right? But at the end of the day, when I mark this up, I'm looking for a trip between 39.66 and 39.60, right? That's the whole essence of the trade when I look at it. Why? It's a potential head and shoulders. It's a trap above Globex high. The problem is we're moving so painfully slow that over here I was looking for a short, right? And why was I looking for a short? Okay. Here's my last stopped out seller, excuse me. Established underneath. I backside tested my stopped out seller. It was also a 50-60 back, and my target was that 39.60, which is that anomaly, and it's also the third and fourth rail. So now I would expect a bounce back up. I'm not looking for a long unless I can get above this stopped out, my last stopped out buyer, or I get reset more to the right, right? So you had the right idea on top. I've just shifted. What Bill and I went through and did our homework, we found that when you break a 3-bar combo, right? When you break a 3-bar combo, you get much fewer stops and many more extensions than if you spend time trying to short up here and you get the read just a little bit wrong because you take so many stops along the way to the top. So all I did was I shifted the exact same setup and said break the long, because I know it took a lot of energy to put that to the upside. They attempted very hard to the upside here, not once, but twice in pretty much the exact same area, right? And you can see how hard they lifted over here on the right too. It's technically that's a 3-bar combo as well. You can draw that out. I usually don't draw these out, but we can. Point of control's in just slightly lower. They closed the point of control underneath right here on this bar for both of them. See how they hung up the point of control? Right? You have to count on a potential backside test, and then it gave the roll from 66 down to 60. So if I shorted here, I need at least 4 and probably 5 to make sure I'm on the safe side. So that's a 64 against a 69, and I would have adapted that to be I would have adapted that to 69 and a quarter to make sure it's behind the 786, and now you get your roll to the downside. Does that clarify for you? The odds making a profitable trade, profitable be defined in ES by going 2 points, right? Particularly in this thing, is much higher than trying to take it off the top. You get more P&L off the top, but you have a lot more stops. And therein lies the rub. London opened up things yesterday. We'll see how it goes today. Remember, London closes 11:30 today. So let's see. They opened up pretty good in that half hour prior. Excuse me a second, guys. Okay, cool. You've got a stopped out buyer on NQ ending at about 12,258. So you want to be careful about getting a close above that on NQ. Here, I'll show you. Nothing on ES yet. See that? If you get above that 12,359, 12,358, yeah. Yeah, Randy, the market's not moving, brother. I hear what you're saying, but the whole problem here is we have no fast rotations. I apologize. I got frustrated for no reason. The market's not doing anything, right? We're not going anywhere, so everyone's just shoving volume against one another. I apologize. I lost my cool, and that's not cool. I'm obviously at the end of my ability to keep my focus on the day, which is totally fine, right? But without taking a break, so I will. But the whole problem here. So maybe you suffer from the same thing I do. I don't know. Let's find out. I sit here and I'm waiting to find a trade, and I'm so keyed up to make sure I get my process right that I'm not stepping back and looking at what's going on. And the answer is that if anyone said, "Hey, is this a great trading environment? Would you want to trade it?" I'd be like, "No, this is horrible." Right? Look at NQ. How long have I been calling for NQ to break down? And look how it's breaking down. NQ, the flyer of 100-point rotations, has gone for the last 30 minutes in a tight waterfall of death pattern. Now, is it rolling? Yeah, it's rolling. But good luck with that as a day trader. That's hard. Look, right when I look like a breakdown, snap it back in. The market isn't there to do anything. Right? We don't have enough rotation to get paid. So the smart thing to do for me is to do nothing. Right? I know that it probably should break down to the downside. Like the divergence between NQ and ES are dramatic. Right? But it's not good open trading per se. Right? It's not rotating the way we would normally look for it to rotate. What I've been doing this morning is just scalping through NQ because I look at ES and I'm like, it's like stuck in mud, right? So when I look at that and I go, okay, what have I, my first question is, what have I accomplished, right? That's my first question. And then my second question is, am I following process, right? So I find what I just now, right? So I apologize. You asked a question. I was already keyed up. I'm frustrated by the lack of movement, right? And now I know I am. And so I'm going to do something I never do. I say it, and then I go get frustrated, and I blow up, and then I roll down. Then I go away, right? So what I'm going to say is this. I'm going to take a break, go get lunch, because I've passed my expiration date. I know it as soon as I say it. And I'm going to stop that behavior. It's a big goal of mine. When I get upset, not cool, right? So NQ did what we thought it would do. ES kind of did what we thought we'd do. It went lower after it got stuck below its stopped out buyer and never we don't have a stopped. You had to get below here to get a stopped out buyer still, right? So on NQ, if you look, had you shorted it and you stayed with it an eternity, you finally got the roll down, right? Target's probably back in here somewhere, right? But it took a ton of patience. Right? Everything's set up for it. It was right. I've been on top of that. I caught portions of this, but I did not. I'm not short right now. I wish I was. Right? But I just know when it sits like this, I get to P&L a lot quicker than that, usually on NQ. And I know that it means buyers are in overall control and to be patient. So, Randy, I apologize. I hope that helps. And on that note, I'm going to. Cool. So on that note, I'm going to I've had an okay morning. I am up slow enough I could trade both accounts. Almost $900 a contract on Top Step, and about equal on my own account because I've been doing the same trades. So, and unfortunately, I'm not short right now, even though I saw that as the potential short setup. We're now into target 1, target 2, target 3, target 4, and I've run out of my ability to make good decisions. I can tell from my outburst with Randy, which I'm working very hard to change that behavior, I promise you. And so that wasn't cool. I got frustrated too by the lack of movement. And here's the deal. When you have a lack of movement, it's always the change in that lack of movement is going to be followed by a big burst. So you're always going to go, oh, I knew it, right? So anyway, I guess I knew it on NQ and I didn't get paid for it, but that's okay. I scratched that. Bill's been very good on this point. I did get paid for it. I didn't get paid as much as I want to get paid for it. So that's my 2 cents, and we'll just keep rolling, guys. I'll be back after lunch.